Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to take you on a fascinating journey into a story that very few people truly know. It shaped one of the most iconic beverages in the world, Coca-Cola. Hidden beneath the sweetness, the fizz, and the bright red branding lies a history that is not only surprising, but also deeply tied to one of the most controversial substances in human history, cocaine. This story is not just about a drink. It is about the intersection of health, science, culture, and human desire. It is about how choices made long ago ripple through time, influencing how we live and what we consume today. As we uncover this truth, we will also uncover lessons about how to protect our health, strengthen our bodies, and reclaim control over what we put into them. Now, when most people think of Coca-Cola, they think of happiness. They think of celebrations, laughter, friends gathered around a table, the fizzing sound of a freshly opened bottle. Coca-Cola has become a symbol of joy, a part of culture, a global icon. But at its very beginning, the story was something entirely different. Coca-Cola was not born as a refreshing soft drink. Instead, it was created as a kind of tonic, a medicine, marketed as a cure for fatigue, headaches, even impotence. And what gave it its power in the late 1800s was not just caffeine from the cola nut, but an extract from coca leaves, the same plant that is the source of cocaine. Think about that for a moment. A drink that today is advertised during the holidays with Santa Claus and family dinners once contained an ingredient that is now banned, stigmatized, and recognized as one of the most addictive substances on the planet. This was not an accident. In fact, back in the 19th century, cocaine was not yet illegal. It was considered almost a wonder drug. Doctors experimented with it. It was used to treat pain. Even Sigmund Freud wrote about it with fascination. And so, when John Pemberton, a pharmacist and the inventor of Coca-Cola, decided to create a beverage, he turned to these two powerful ingredients, the stimulating cola nut and the energizing coca leaf. Together, they formed a formula that he believed could invigorate the human body and mind. For a time, it worked. People felt uplifted. They felt energy. They felt something different when they drank this new tonic. Coca-Cola started to grow in popularity. But as science began to advance, as awareness about cocaine's addictive properties began to spread, concerns arose. The truth could no longer be hidden. By the early 1900s, the company quietly began to remove the cocaine from its formula, substituting other flavorings and keeping only the name Coca as a reminder of its origins. But the association lingered. The story did not disappear, and in many ways became a shadow that followed the brand for decades. Why does this matter to us today? Because this history teaches us an important lesson. We cannot blindly trust what is placed in front of us, no matter how appealing it looks or how comforting it feels. We must always ask what is in it. What does it do to our bodies? What impact does it leave behind? In the late 1800s, people were unknowingly consuming a substance that could alter their brain chemistry because it was marketed as safe, beneficial. And in our modern world, while cocaine is no longer in Coca-Cola, the lesson remains relevant. Today, the dangers are hidden not in cocaine, but in sugar. A single can of soda contains a staggering amount of sugar, far more than our bodies are designed to handle in one sitting. That sugar, over time, fuels obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer. And yet, Billions of people drink it every day, just as people in the 19th century drank their cocaine, infused tonic, believing it was harmless. So the truth about Coca-Cola and cocaine is not just a story of history, is a mirror for us today. It reminds us how powerful marketing can be. It shows us how easily science can be ignored when profit is involved. It warns us that what we consume today may hold consequences tomorrow. But here's the empowering part. Knowledge changes everything. Once we know the truth, we cannot unknow it. Once we understand the risks, we can make better choices. And once we reclaim control, we can choose foods and drinks that do not weaken us, but instead strengthen us. When I look at this story, I see two paths. On one side, there is the path of blind consumption, drinking whatever is marketed to us, eating whatever is placed in front of us, ignoring the labels, ignoring the science. That is the path that leads to disease, to weakness, to loss of control. But on the other side, there is the path of awareness. Asking questions, seeking the truth, learning how foods and drinks truly affect our biology. That is the path of empowerment, of resilience, of immense inner strength. And the beautiful thing is, we all have the power to choose which path we take. Let us take a step back and reflect on Coca-Cola's journey. It began with a pharmacist in search of a tonic. It gained power because it contained two stimulating ingredients, grew into a global empire because it tapped into human desire for energy, for pleasure, for escape. It survived controversy by reinventing itself, shifting away from cocaine, but holding on to sugar, caffeine, branding. What is the lesson here? That industries will always adapt to survive. They will always find a way to keep us consuming. But our health is not their priority. Our awareness must be. So, I ask you, what are you consuming? What are you putting into your body every single day? Is it something that builds your health or something that slowly erodes it? Is it something that energizes you naturally or something that hooks you into a cycle of craving and crash? When you open a can of soda, do you see only bubbles and sweetness, or do you also see the legacy of cocaine, the hidden dangers of sugar, the history of marketing that placed profit above people? Because when you see the truth, the choice becomes clear. Coca-Cola and cocaine, this is a story of science and history, but it is also a story of awareness. It is a story that reminds us that our health is our greatest asset and we must protect it. The truth is that no drink, no product, no brand should have power over our biology. We are the ones who decide what to put into our bodies. We are the ones who choose whether to follow the crowd or to stand apart. We are the ones who decide whether to be manipulated by a marketing or to be guided by knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth about Coca-Cola and cocaine is more than just a shocking piece of trivia. It is a call to action. It is an invitation to wake up, to see the reality of what we consume, to reclaim our power. And when we do, something incredible happens. We discover that true energy, true vitality, true joy does not come from a can, a bottle, or a brand. It comes from within. It comes from nourishing our bodies with foods that heal, with drinks that hydrate, with choices that empower. So the next time you see a Coca-Cola, remember its history. Remember the cocaine. Remember the sugar. Remember the story that began more than a century ago. And then ask yourself, what choice will I make today? Will I allow history to repeat itself in my body, or will I learn from it and choose a better future? That is the real truth. That is the power of awareness. That is the path to health, strength, and freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, most of us grew up thinking of Coca-Cola as nothing more than a refreshing drink, a symbol of joy, friendship, celebration. We see it in advertisements filled with smiling faces, families sharing moments, and people raising their glasses in unity. Coca-Cola has been painted as the drink of happiness, something that connects us across cultures and generations. But behind that sparkling image lies a story that is far darker, more complex, and rooted in a substance that today is recognized as one of the most addictive and destructive in human history: cocaine. This story, when fully understood, is not just about the history of a beverage. It is about how powerful industries can shape our habits, how hidden truths about what we consume can impact our health, how knowledge can empower us to break free from illusions and reclaim control over our lives. The story begins in the late 19th century when a pharmacist named John Pemberton was searching for a new tonic, something that could relieve fatigue, ease pain, and invigorate the body. At that time, cocaine was not only legal, it was celebrated. Doctors prescribed it, scientists studied it, and society viewed it almost like a miracle compound. Sigmund Freud himself wrote extensively about its stimulating effects, and so when Pemberton created the earliest version of Coca-Cola, he combined two ingredients: the caffeine-rich cola nut and the coca leaf, which is the very plant that cocaine is derived from. Together, these ingredients formed a concoction that people claimed gave them energy, focus, and vitality. Imagine being alive in that time and tasting this new beverage for the first time. You wouldn't just taste sweetness. You would feel something powerful moving through your body, something you might not be able to fully explain, but something that kept you coming back for more. That was the hidden power behind Coca-Cola's early success. It wasn't just branding, it wasn't just clever marketing. It was chemistry, it was biology, was the presence of a drug that today we associate with danger, addiction, and destruction. But as time passed, science caught up. The excitement around cocaine began to fade as doctors and researchers uncovered its darker side, its addictive nature, its harmful effects on the body and mind, its potential to destroy lives. Slowly, the tide of public opinion began to turn. By the early 1900s, pressure mounted for Coca-Cola to change, and so the company quietly began to remove the cocaine from its formula, replacing it with flavorings that would maintain the taste but eliminate the controversy. Coca-Cola remained, the red branding grew stronger, and the product began its transformation into the global icon we know today. Yet, even after cocaine was removed, the formula still carried another hidden danger: sugar. One can of Coca-Cola contains far more sugar than our bodies are designed to handle at once. It spikes our blood sugar, triggers insulin, fuels fat storage, and over time contributes to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and even cancer. In other words, while the cocaine disappeared, another addictive substance quietly took its place. Sugar became the new driver of cravings. Sugar became the hidden hook that kept billions of people drinking it day after day. And so, the lesson of Coca-Cola is not just about cocaine. It is about the deeper truth of how industries shape what we consume and how easily we can be led into habits that harm us. It is about how something that looks harmless, even joyful, can quietly erode our health over time. It is about how profit often takes priority over people, and how history has a way of repeating itself in new forms. Cocaine may be gone from the formula, but the addictive cycle it started continues today through sugar and caffeine. Now, here is the important part. Once we know this history, once we understand the truth, we are no longer powerless. Knowledge frees us. Awareness empowers us. Because every time you open a can of soda, you have a choice. You can see only the marketing, the happy faces, the bright colors, the feeling of nostalgia. Or you can see the truth, the history of cocaine, the hidden cost of sugar, the impact it has on your health. When you see the truth, your decision changes. You no longer drink blindly. You think, you evaluate, you choose consciously. This is where the story of Coca-Cola becomes more than just history, becomes a metaphor for our lives. Every day, we are presented with choices, foods, drinks, habits, lifestyles. Some of them bring us health, strength, and energy. Others bring us disease, fatigue, and weakness. The challenge is that the unhealthy choices often come dressed in appealing packaging. They come with bright colors, catchy slogans, and marketing campaigns that tug at our emotions. Just like Coca-Cola once carried cocaine, many modern products carry hidden dangers. And if we are not careful, if we do not ask questions, if we do not seek the truth, we fall into the same trap. But here is what I want you to remember. We are not helpless. We are not victims of history. We are not destined to repeat the same mistakes. We have something that people in the 19th century did not have. We have knowledge. We have science. We have awareness. And when we use these tools, we can make choices that protect our health, choices that give us strength, choices that allow us to live fully without being controlled by cravings, addictions, or marketing. Think about it this way. When you choose a glass of water instead of a sugary soda, you are not just avoiding sugar. You are choosing hydration, clarity, and energy for your cells. When you choose fresh fruits instead of processed sweets, you are not just avoiding empty calories, you are choosing fiber, vitamins, and natural compounds that heal your body. When you choose awareness over blind consumption, you are rewriting the story. You are breaking free from the cycle that began more than a century ago when cocaine first entered a beverage and people drank it without knowing the cost. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth about Coca-Cola and cocaine is not just a piece of trivia. It is a reminder of how easily history can deceive us. It is a reminder of how the things we consume can shape our health, for better or for worse. And it is a reminder that the power to choose is always in our hands. Coca-Cola no longer contains cocaine, but it still contains the echoes of its past, still carries lessons about addiction, about marketing, about the importance of awareness. If we learn from those lessons, if we truly see the truth, then we can make choices that set us free. So the next time you see a can of Coca-Cola, do not just see a drink. See a story. See its beginnings in a pharmacist's lab. See the cocaine that once made it powerful. See the sugar that still drives its cravings today. And then see yourself standing with knowledge, powered to choose differently. Because once you know the truth, you are no longer controlled by it, are freed from it. And that freedom, the freedom to choose health, the freedom to choose strength, The freedom to choose life is the greatest gift that knowledge can give. That is the real truth about Coca-Cola and cocaine. It is not just history. It is a lesson, a warning, and ultimately, invitation to live with awareness, to break free from illusions, and to embrace choices that build a future of strength, vitality, and health.